Hi. So I've been wanting to do a video talking about the lyrics from my new song For You to Open. I released it as a demo and an acoustic piano vocal kind of track before we release the produced version. This has been, I think, the most personal and autobiographical song that I've released ever. It's kind of seen through the eyes of me as a child and then also as an adult looking back on my childhood. So I'll get into it, looking at the lyrics on the lyric video that I made for YouTube. So the song starts out, "You felt out of place, so you took us to outer space." So I'm talking to my dad when I say you. My dad was adopted. His adoptive family, not the most loving. And I think he created this story that he was French because it gave him a sense of belonging somewhere. I guess he had to, he had to kind of create a mythology about himself because he knew that he wasn't part of the family that he grew up in, and they were, especially his mother, kind of abusive. So yeah, so he felt out of place, and then I ended up feeling very out of place as a child because he moved us to a foreign country several times, actually. So I went as a baby, and my parents kind of scouted out Paris and then decided that they'd prefer to live in the South. We lived in LA until I was about 5, and then we moved permanently to France when I was done with first grade. So I must have been about 6, I guess. So when I say he took us to outer space, it was like it might as well have been. I took my kids to Mexico a few months ago to try living in another country with them, and it's so funny because they felt so out of place there, but the resources that they have available to them compared to the ones that I had when I was living outside the United States are kind of funny to me. Like almost every food that they were used to eating they could get. They still had Netflix, they had YouTube, they were, they had all their devices, and they were able to communicate with people on video. I had a very different childhood than that. We got to have, like, my dad would bring back like pancake mix and Fritos, but for the most part, we were eating mostly what was available at French supermarkets, which, arguably is not bad stuff, but it wasn't what we were used to. And went to a French school. Was the only American, for that part of that education anyway. When I later went back into high school, I was among more international people, but still not a ton of Americans. So I felt, I was always kind of like the odd one out, a lot of the time. And so I start this song out, you took us to outer space, because it felt like that. So I say, paradise not on earth anymore, digging to find a marble floor. I think it's funny, but as a child, I sort of thought of the United States as like this paradise that I couldn't live in. Like I really wanted to go back all the time. It wasn't my choice to live in a foreign country without, access to the things that I thought, made life great, which, aren't really, but try telling that to a child. And, away from the friends that I had made as a preschooler and kindergartner, and later on, my friends from middle school, because we went back and forth a couple of times. The marble reference, it's sort of my dad didn't live with us in France. He would go back and forth because his businesses were in LA. So we lived in France kind of for him. It's I can't even explain this in a rational way. It's not rational, but that was our life. And until about high school, when he kind of toned down his commute, and actually spent some time there with us. But we would basically be like a month on, a month off, I think. I was a child. I don't totally remember, but he was gone a lot. He would, he'd bring back fun snacks and stuff, but it was hard. It was definitely hard not having him there. And it was hard because it was hard on my mom too. So I really felt that. So the marble thing is sort of like, he's very into nice things. And it was sort of like, I guess my kind of inability to perceive this situation the way that he did. He saw this as kind of this like fine experience, this sort of like marble veneer, this beautiful high class, thing. And to me, it was just generally a pretty painful experience of feeling completely out of place, and like an outsider. So that's that lyric. Let's keep going. You felt out of skin, no clone to your next of kin. That relates to him not feeling like he was a part of his own family. It wasn't long till you jumped from the nest off to narrate a hero's quest. It felt like he wanted to get away. He wanted to leave, because I think there's that thing about wanting to find yourself. And I went through this as like a 20-year-old, and I thought like, she must be in some experience somewhere. And so, it's like, is she in New Zealand? Is she in Australia? And she's here. But it was the and I don't know, I never really asked him, but I'm not sure if he did find himself in France. But he, I don't know, maybe he's still looking. But it was a hero's quest in the sense of there was, there I feel like I'm validating that there was that intention for him, even though it didn't feel like that for me, maybe. They called out, "We love you," but you couldn't hear, not through the atmosphere. I sort of see this one as all of the people in LA that we moved away from, just, being like exuding this love. My dad had a very successful and well-known restaurant in LA. They had a lot of friends. It always seemed to me like we just had so much community and love in Los Angeles that we, for some reason, were running away from, to go somewhere where we knew no one, and we were completely, foreign. I mean, literally foreign. Not that we didn't make friends there, but it wasn't ever the same thing. And just this whole song is just about the realization that my father just can't feel the love that people are sending him, and how kind of like strangely you would, or I did see this as a child, like, don't you see that it's so much better over there? Why are we over here? That kind of thing. They sent letters to that I was waiting for you to open. I mean, the way that we got messages from the outside world, besides telephone calls, were letters, holiday cards. And then in the next chorus, I talk about faxes, because that was like the way that my dad communicated with us when he was in LA and we were in France, is he would send us these faxes. And so you'd wake up in the morning and, we'd run out to his office and we'd see if there were like these scrolled up pages that had fallen on the floor, because the fax paper is really thin and rolls on itself. So yeah, so obviously the open, is this double meaning, because it's like waiting for you to open up to that realization that you don't need to be looking for anything outside yourself, that it's already all here. You already have everything that you want. I think as his daughter. I wanted him to realize that I was enough, that that the love that he was searching for was already in his life. Waiting for you to open, waiting for you to see the truth, to feel the love we felt for you. So that's what I was talking about there. We sat on the verge of a portal between two worlds. I'm talking about this experience of when you move to another country. This was my experience when you're now an expat, and your frame of reference is now no longer just the place that you came from, but also the place that you've moved to. You're kind of between these two cultures. I'm not French. I've never been French, but I have a French experience, which makes me different when I go back to the United States. I feel that much less now as an adult, but as a child, I just felt very strange to everyone. I had very different experiences. I had a very different perspective. And I remember also this feeling of like not being okay for me to say anything negative about my experience, even though it was a very hard one, because I lived in a place that visually people assumed would be paradise. So I would get often, people would say, how do you like living in France? And it felt like the only right answer was, oh my God, it's amazing, but it wasn't. My dad was gone. My mom was having a really hard time. I was, having to go to school in a different culture and navigate a totally different language. I am fluent in French, but it's not my maternal language. Navigate a whole different school system, very strict. And so between two worlds, no longer part of anything. That's relating to, this feeling of just feeling out of place everywhere. Successors to that familial sting. So, because of this experience that my dad created, I now felt, I think, kind of similarly to how he did, being adopted, like out of place, so it's just kind of ironic. They called out, we love you, but you couldn't hear, not through the fear of rejection. I think also just thinking about the community in the States that we'd left behind, but they calling out, we love you, became this chant of, like, you imagine all these ancestors and guides and spirits that like walk with you for your whole life, that love you unconditionally, that are constantly, this is how I envision the spirits in my life that walk you through your life and that just have nothing but unconditional love for you, but you can't feel it, not in the way that they're giving it. You get glimpses of it, but you don't feel it. And I think that my dad had this very strong fear of rejection that is probably quite prevalent in adopted children, because you have like a primal rejection. You've been rejected from your birth parents. That's a very deep wound. So again, I'm like recalling this as like an adult, because it's not a realization that I probably had as a child, but also the feelings that I was having as a child. They sent faxes too that I was waiting for you to open. So it was funny because my producer wanted me to change this line because she thought the word faxes just didn't sound right. It was like, could you use letters again? But I really wanted to use the word fax because it's very 80s. It was or 90s maybe at that point. It's very like of that time, and was a huge part of my life. Our fax machine was like, email to me. It was the way that I, it was in a way sort of the way that I felt loved a lot of the time by my dad, just receiving little notes, he'd write one. Actually, I don't remember if my dad did that, but I remember when if my mom was visiting the States and we were there with my dad, she would send like kind of one for each of us, So you'd get this little personalized love note, which was sweet. Again, waiting for you to open, waiting for you to feel the truth that Earth was different without you, I think. That Earth was different without you. Like it was different being in a foreign country without my dad, right? And then I go to the bridge, send in the Martians and the Earthlings to send in the cosmic stellar glue, kind of referring. I took some poetic license here. I don't feel, by the way, that I wrote any of these. I definitely channeled these lyrics, so I can't really say, like, I selected this exact word because blah, blah, blah. This song came out of me almost verbatim as I ended up singing it. I don't think I changed much of anything, which is sort of unusual. Usually I'll, like, channel a song, so I don't really ever feel like I'm writing it in the sense of, like, carefully selecting words, but I'll write the whole thing, I'll put music to it, and then I'll decide that, like, maybe I want to swap out some words, or maybe I don't like one of the verses, and I'll change it to be more in, the context of the greater song. But for this, I don't think I did anything. I think I just kept it just as it is. It was like pretty stream of consciousness and kind of exactly the way that it ended up being. But, I'm talking about the angels and the guides and the, like, send in the glue, like, to keep this family together, I guess. I couldn't be that for you. So this is kind of me as a child going, like, I couldn't be enough for you, for my dad. But that's okay. But will you listen? They're not far away. Like, still, like, despite all of this, they're still calling out. You are still surrounded by love, and I wonder if you can feel it. And then I go into the "We love you," and when I sing it sometimes it feels to me like I'm saying that, like my family loves you, but I think when I initially wrote it, it was more like, we love you. Like, that's what they are saying, the guides, the angels, the etheric beings. So then I go into the last one, which is sort of like the adult realization, right? My last verse. Now you say, I love you. And I can clearly hear, I have no fear of the past now. I laugh at that lyric because sometimes I feel like it's true, and sometimes I'm like, well, I'm still getting there. I no longer wait for you. I'll love you no matter how much you open. So it's kind of like, I like the way that word kind of ended up being used in two meanings, and kind of pops out as the second meaning here. Like, I'm waiting for you to open, Dad, as opposed to you opening a letter. And I love you no matter how much you open, no matter how you open. It's enough. I get to see the truth, that it feels good to love you. So this was a realization that I had, and this whole song really came from a breathwork session that my friend Diane guided me through. And it was like 2 summers ago, I think. I was doing maybe like one a week. They were really, really cool. But I had this just vivid realization, like you would have kind of on a psychedelic journey, I guess. And it hit me so clearly then. It doesn't feel as clear in me now. It's kind of like an imprint, but I'm not sure that it has completely integrated. It's like slowly integrating. That I can't expect a love from my dad that he has never experienced. And I think that there is kind of a missing something because of that primal wound that he experienced being given up at birth. But that I have a capacity for love that I can demonstrate. Was a lot better. The breath work told it to me in a much clearer way, but that's the best way that I can use words to to communicate that, and really like the whole point of this song is to communicate that message. So hopefully the music does the work. So, and then I go into the last verse, which feels sort of like an acceptance of what is, I guess. So it goes into can't be what we are, where we are, can't be where we are without the steps we took to get us this far. So, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today without all of this, all of the beauty and all of the pain and everything. You know, I'm very grateful for my experiences, even though they were difficult. And some might say we have scars on our skin. So some might say that, you know, that the experiences wound us, that, you know, that our traumas make us ugly, I guess, in a way. But then I say there's stars in the cosmos within. So I guess in a sense it's like I do truly believe, and I am truly falling apart. It's okay. I do truly believe that the experiences that we have make us who we are, and I'll speak for myself. The experiences that I've had have made me who I am, and I would not give them up for anything because I value who I am. They become sort of like this constellation within us, and depending on how we decide to look at them, they can, I suppose, make us ugly to ourselves, or they can be like a whole universe inside of us that, you know, that sparkles and makes us uniquely us, makes me uniquely me. So that's my spiel on this song. Again, this was like the most I think personal thing that I've ever released, and it took me a while to want to do that. So it was I definitely had some resistance to it, and halted the process a few times. I mean, I guess case in point, it isn't even done yet, right? It was just a demo, but I did want to get it out. That was Monica, my producer's idea to do she really liked this vocal, which we won't end up keeping because there's some like scratches and stuff in it that I don't like. But I thought it was still good to release it, and I think that it's nice to share things that are not polished all the time. I think that I really appreciate that in artists that I love. I love hearing kind of rougher, scratchier demo type stuff, as well as, you know, nicely produced things. So I hope you enjoy the song, and thanks for tuning in. All right, bye.